Hi, welcome to Election Night in America 2024. Here we have former President Jimmy Carter, who served with Vice President Walter Mondale. We is unfortunately not alive to witness this moment of Jimmy Carter running for president again. Meanwhile, on the Republican ticket, we have the former President Donald Trump, who was serving with Vice President Mike Pence, who will not be running with the Donald Trump ticket. So Carter has been leading in the majority of dominant swing states. The Democrats are also expected to win key battle states. Polls are very confusing this time. Many people estimate a wipeout election in favor of the former president, Jimmy Carter. Okay, I'm just gonna be saying good former president. I'm just kidding, that's horrible. Virginia, too early to call. Texas, too close to be called. The Democrats have clinched the presidency. Meanwhile, these are many Trump leads. Donald Trump isn't just left by himself. He's leading in several key dominant and key battleground states. Nope, not Minnesota. So these are the polling data. Donald Carter at a 290 lead for Donald Trump, with only 298. He's also going to be adjusting the music system. We now have our first poll closings in the night. The eastern part of the states of Indiana and Kentucky are witnessing their polls close. First, we need to get rid of the polling map. But first, we're going to be characterizing key states in this very interesting election. The first election where two former presidents both ran against each other. And the first election where both presidents are trying to get their second term. Key states to be focusing tonight. We're just going to be making a category for that. The first toss-up race going from coast to coast within the state of Nevada, where Jimmy Carter in his last election lost. Can he flip it? He will need to win the counties of Washoe and Clark. And with suburban voters shifting away from former President Trump, can we see a return? Despite Gerald Ford's victory in Washoe County, the second most popular state, either way, meanwhile, but the Democrats were able to do pretty good in these counties. Despite that wasn't enough to win the state due to the very small margin in Washoe County. The Republican victory in Washoe County and the very small margin in Clark County. Anyway, the next battleground state would be the state of Arizona. Cindy McCain has been endorsing, the widow of Senator John McCain, has been endorsing Jimmy Carter. He's really nice, I've heard, and he's definitely not like Trump. Trust me. Next wing would probably is in Nebraska second. Republicans are trying to clinch this one district that could potentially decide an election. Meanwhile, Minnesota as not as much as they want to. The Democrats are also looking, we're not going to characterize it because it's not really acting like a swing state, but the Democrats are actually really hoping to significantly narrow up the margin in Utah. In 2016, candidate Evan Mullen Independent ran in the state of Utah and got about 20% of the vote. If 75% of the people voted for Trump, Donald Trump would have won the state by 30%. Instead, he didn't. Meanwhile, the Republicans are hoping to flip Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania back to them. Meanwhile, in Iowa and Ohio, the Democrats are looking to reclaim back their bellwether streak. New Hampshire, a traditionally competitive state, the Republicans have been eyeing them. And the same thing in the Maine 2nd. The Democrats are trying to make back an effort to get it. Either way, in the state of Texas, the Democrats are looking an effort to reach their perfect standards. Jimmy Carter might be just a candidate, and the Democrats with perfect standards could potentially win the state by less than 1,500 votes, or just slightly larger than 1,000 votes. Meanwhile, in the state of Georgia, the polls have not closed in the state of Georgia yet. But this state is heavily targeted by the Trump campaign. The state has now 2 Democratic senators. And with the Atlanta metro area significantly growing, Savannah area getting significantly more Democratic, and the Columbus area, we could see the state becoming very blue. Meanwhile, in the state of Florida, Jimmy Carter is looking to potentially win the state. He won by a pretty large margin for a candidate back in 1976. Jimmy Carter, he's planning to replicate this margin in the state of North Carolina, the same story as Florida, except it's not as strong for President Trump last time, former President Trump. So 195 possible electoral votes. Anyway, the polls a while back closes in the states of Indiana and Kentucky. Why is it so bad? Okay, this is very unprofessional. Trump leads in Indiana. A Trump lead in the state of Kentucky. Right now, Donald Trump has 90 electoral votes, but they're not secured. It's 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and the polls have now closed in the Eastern Time Zone of Florida, which is most of the Panhandle, Georgia, the rest of Indiana and Kentucky, South Carolina, Virginia, and the state of Vermont. But first, let us make a projection in the state of Indiana. Donald Trump carries the state by a relatively small margin compared to other Republicans, outperforming candidate Gerald Ford. But without Mike Pence on the ticket, he severely underperformed. A 16.1% margin just got turned into like a 10-point margin. It's slightly higher, but still. Meanwhile, in the state of Kentucky, with nearly 99% of the vote in, 91% of the vote in, we now project Donald Trump carries the state by a slightly smaller margin than before, yet still a slight margin. We also project that Carter is now leading in the state of Vermont, but with only 30% of the vote in, we now project Jimmy Carter to win the state. South Carolina, too close to call. Georgia and Florida, too close to call. Virginia, too close to call. Now at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be reporting some more poll closing. But first, we have some major projections. Jimmy Carter will win the state of Virginia. The first candidate to win Virginia by over 15 points. The last one to do it was Ronald Reagan, Carter's, I wouldn't say enemy, but I'd say but the candidate who ran against Carter. The last, except for Bush. Bush was actually the last one. Bush by a 20-point margin, but it used to be safe Republicans. We now project to go about 15.1% in favor of former President Carter. This election is turning out to be a very amazing night for Carter so far, but no. Right now it's too close to call. But we now project Donald Trump to win in the state of South Carolina by a significantly reduced margin. The first time, not too significant, but still. But this is the first time in a while, and by a while, I mean 2008 was the last time a candidate won South Carolina by less than 10%. But that was an exceptional year for Democrats. Prior to him, the last one was Dole, and the last non-incumbent was Bush. No surprise, Roe took a huge part. Anyway, this was not a very stellar performance for Democrats in the state of South Carolina. Meanwhile, the states of Georgia and Florida remain too close to call. And now we can get on to ours. 7:30 p.m. poll closing. It is 7:30 p.m. and the polls have now just closed in the states of North Carolina, Ohio, and West Virginia. Just a few minutes later, Donald Trump has taken the lead in the state of Virginia. He's also taken the lead in North Carolina, but only 5% of the vote is in the state of Ohio, but Jimmy Carter has taken the lead. Albeit a very small margin. A few minutes later, we now project Donald Trump to be the apparent winner in the state of West Virginia. He will carry its 4, slightly less than its 5, electoral votes. Meanwhile, North Carolina, too close to call, and with more votes in the state of Ohio, Donald Trump has taken a very narrow lead, but the race is still too close to be called. We now go to our largest poll closing in the night, where we have polls closed in the states of Alabama, Connecticut, Delaware, the rest of Florida, Illinois, Central Time Zone of Kansas, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan Eastern Time Zone, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey, North Dakota, the Central Time Zone part, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and South Dakota, its Central part, Tennessee, the Texas Central part, Central Time Zone, and Washington, D.C., Central Capital. In Alabama, Donald Trump is still lead, but the race is still too close to be called. Meanwhile, the reciprocal is in Delaware and in the state of Connecticut. Reciprocal of that, not yet. But in Illinois, the Democrats, more specifically, Jimmy Carter has won the state. Kansas, too close to be called. Maine and Maryland, Carter has taken the lead in the first and at-large district. In Maryland, the Democrats have taken the lead, but Donald Trump has a sizable lead in their second congressional district. But we now have a major projection. It's not very major, but still notable. Illinois, Maryland, Delaware, Connecticut and Maine's first congressional district have all been called for Jimmy Carter. This is the first time Jimmy Carter's been in the lead for a while. But still more states. Massachusetts, Michigan, and Mississippi. Jimmy Carter has taken a very small lead, but still. I wouldn't say very small lead, but still, this is not expected to shift. It could actually be one of Carter's first losses in his life. Just because the state is more polarized, not because Carter's a very bad candidate. He's really good. So like a Reagan, which he defeated him in a landslide. So, tell us Ford. Fine. I'm just curious. Maybe the election is just a little improvement, a bit more. It is raw, but America would have been out. No, seriously, even if we won that election, it wouldn't. Oh, whatever. Either way, we're getting a bit off topic-ish. Missouri and New Hampshire. Both have a Carter lead. New Jersey and North Dakota. Carter has taken the lead, but it's still too close to call in the state of North Dakota. South Dakota's just fine. Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. South Dakota, Texas, and the state, not state, district of Washington, D.C. But with only 1% of the vote in, the Republicans are taking a massive 95 to 5% lead. But all the reports are from Republican areas. And so we now project Jimmy Carter to win the district of D.C. This is a very small, but might be significant win in the all the time reliable Democrats. We also can make some major projections. Jimmy Carter will now carry the states of New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and come in New Hampshire. Meanwhile, the race in Maine's 2nd District and Maine at large are still too close to call, except Maine's at large district has been called for the Democrats. Its 2nd Congressional District is still not been called. Despite that, Donald Trump has taken a lead. Ohio. This has been iffy, but Carter is taking the lead. Only by a few hundred votes, and with a few more votes in, Donald Trump has taken the lead. Back to Carter. Back to Trump. Back to Carter. More and more votes are coming in. And you're putting it in the toss-up column. Actually, we now have a major projection in the state of Ohio. Donald Trump carries it 18. Make that 17. Sorry, forgot to edit that. So, we need one more electoral vote edit. I am sorry for being very, forgetful. Oregon gains 1. Where is the gain? You know what? We're just gonna be copying the no, now it takes too long. Oh, North Carolina! That's the state! Ohio. But we now take a massive lead. Donald Trump carries the state by only 3.5%, slightly down than before, but still. This is the 2nd election in a row Ohio has voted with the presidential election winner, so it's not with the right now. I am not saying Jimmy Carter will win the election. I am sorry. Jimmy Carter will not win. Jimmy Carter will not lose. It all depends. It all depends on what happens. Right now it looks like, I'm sorry, right now it looks like Jimmy Carter was gonna win. Jimmy Carter is not winning yet. He's winning, but still, you get my point. But we now have a major projection in the state of Oklahoma. Donald Trump carries its 7 electoral votes. One state the Carter campaign was hoping to flip. It didn't happen though. Meanwhile, in Mississippi, Donald Trump will carry the state. Not by a lot, but still, will carry the state by 13.7%. Meanwhile, in the state of Missouri, Donald Trump is slightly the worst, of only winning the state by 14.9%. Slightly down from his 15.4 he won by Bush. And we now make the projection in Maine's 2nd Congressional District. That district is going to Trump by a lean margin, only by 3.7%, down from 7% before. Election night's been going on, and in fact, we now project Pennsylvania to go in Jimmy Carter. Okay, thankfully for us, we have one state that poll closed, and that is the state of Arkansas. So right now, Carter is leading the state. He usually favors conservative Democrats a bit more. Carter's barely winning, and is barely holding on to the grip. Actually, we made a mistake. We project Donald Trump to win the state of Pennsylvania. Not Jimmy Carter. Okay, so, oh my goodness, it's 9 o'clock p.m. What happened? Oh yeah, that's that. It's 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and the polls have now closed in Arizona, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, Louisiana, rest of Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, New York, rest of North and South Dakota, the rest of Texas, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. The second largest group of poll closings, 1 hour after the largest group of poll closings. Oh my goodness. Arizona and Colorado, too close to be called. Kansas. We can now project with more votes in. Carter is taking the lead, only by 1 vote, which makes the now shift back to Donald Trump. Louisiana and Michigan. But Carter is leading in almost all of these states. Minnesota, Nebraska. Donald Trump has taken the lead. New Mexico and New York. Jimmy Carter has taken the lead. I'm sorry, you're gonna flip back Pennsylvania to the Trump column. North Dakota and South Dakota are even characterized. Jimmy Carter's been leading already. Meanwhile, in Wisconsin, Donald Trump takes the lead. And we now project him to win the state. Okay guys, we now make major projections. We now take Pennsylvania out of the Trump column and put it in the Carter leads column. We just realized there are still enough votes for Jimmy Carter to make a victory in the state. We also project the same thing in the state of Wisconsin. If Carter wins all these states, he's done. He wins the election, hands down. But we now make projections. North, South Dakota, Texas, and Arkansas have all flipped to the Carter column. Meanwhile, in Georgia, this race is so long. But we now project Jimmy Carter to win the state. Not by a huge margin, but not by a little margin either. We now project him to win the state. Meanwhile, heavily fought races in the state of Florida and North Carolina have given Carter the victory. Recounts have been instated in the state of Florida, and Donald Trump is not giving up hope. He is determined to win this. But his pathway will be a bit difficult without the state of North Carolina. This state is a severe battleground state, and Donald Trump has lost it. The first time since 2008 a Republican has lost North Carolina, and prior to that, 1976 coincidentally. Ooh, we're running out of time a bit. At 10 o'clock Eastern Time, we now have polls closed in Idaho, Iowa, and Montana. And we now make a projection. It's not a projection, but still. Carter has now taken back the lead in the state of Texas by 100,000 votes. Scratch that, 100 votes. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has flipped back the state, which is now flipped back to Carter, back to Trump, back to Carter, back to Trump, back to Carter, back to Trump, back to Carter, where it will remain. Meanwhile, we can now make projections in the state of Louisiana and Alabama, as well as in the state of Tennessee. Assuming polls have closed there. Yep, they have. I don't know why it's taken a while, but Tennessee to go to the Republicans, Alabama to go to the Republicans, as well as Louisiana to go to the Republicans. Nevada, Oregon, and Utah also have polls closing. Republicans are now taking those private lead. Meanwhile, just a few states remain in the toss-up column. But where in the we already called Wyoming, for crying out loud, people. Wyoming is one of the only states to go for the Republican Party. This is the largest margin of victory for the Republican Party this election so far. But we also project Colorado and New Mexico to both go to the Democratic Party. These states were heavily swapped by Donald Trump, and that didn't happen. Also, we now don't project Arizona. That feels weird. But we haven't projected Arizona yet. But in the Rust Belt, this is not a fluke this time. We actually predict the Jimmy Carter to win all of these states. New York, we projected a long time, but forgot to update. Sorry about the inconvenience. Okay, so we now have 78 polls closed. 78 polls closed. Electoral votes are closed. In California, the polls have now closed with the Carter lead. With one vote, now project Donald Trump to be leading. Remember, only 0.1% of the vote is actually in. Meanwhile, in Idaho, we now project Donald Trump to be taking the lead. Oregon and Washington, Donald Trump to also be taking the lead. But the Democrats regained their lead in California. and switch to the and can switch to the state of Nevada. Okay, guys, we have major projections. We now project Joe Biden to win Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. This has been coming as a shocker to many people, but it's true. But we also project Jimmy Carter to narrowly win in Arkansas. This state usually loves its conservatives, and it just so happens that Jimmy Carter is, I think. Anyway, Donald Trump wins in the state of Iowa. He takes Kansas, North Dakota, and South Dakota, as well as Nebraska.
2007, a U.S. Senator
No, I don't want to watch political primaries. Gosh. Okay, so it's 12 a.m. on the East Coast, aka the next day. We still don't know a winner, just to close severity of this race. But it's 12 o'clock p.m. and the polls are now closed in Alaska and Hawaii. We now project Hawaii to go to the Democrats. Alaska is still too close to call, but now it's 1 a.m. and the polls are now closed in the state. Donald Trump has taken the lead and has now won the state. Utah, we now project for Donald Trump. Montana, we now project for Donald Trump, and Idaho, we now project for Donald Trump. Jimmy Carter just needs one of the remaining states in order to win. And guess what? He's going to reach his victory. With Oregon being the tipping point state, we now project Jimmy Carter to be the 47th President of the United States. Jimmy Carter, former President of the United States. He is the oldest president at almost like 100 years old in inauguration day. And if he survives the rest of his term, he'll be 104 years old. But that's not the end of the poll closing. We now project Washington to go to the President-elect Jimmy Carter. We also project Nevada to go to President-elect Jimmy Carter, and California to go to President-elect Jimmy Carter, as well as the state of Arizona. Our electoral map is finished, except one thing, Texas. We now project Jimmy Carter to win narrowly by 1,000 votes in Texas. Donald Trump is seeing legal battles in the states of Georgia, North Carolina, Nebraska, Arizona, and Nevada, like always. Thanks for watching. Bye. But first, flips by Carter, flips by Trump. We'll see you guys the last laugh. In fact, this is one of the most flip-worthy elections in American history. The Democrats were able to flip Arizona and Nevada. They are also able to flip the states of New Mexico and Colorado. They were also able to flip the state of Virginia. Flip Maine. Well, most of Maine. They were able to flip New Hampshire, Vermont. And they were able to flip New Hampshire and Vermont. Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Actually, no, Massachusetts. Connecticut and New Jersey. As well as the state of Michigan. I think that's it for Republican flips. Almost. Washington, Oregon, and California were also flips. Surprise. I know. Number 77. So, the Republicans were able to flip Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Missouri. Not a ton of flips, but they were also able to flip the state of Ohio. So, now we project. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you guys later. Bye.